Hello, government seekers. My name is Graham Elwood. You're watching Government Secrets Live. Thank you, everybody watching on my YouTube and Lee Camp's YouTube. If you're on one of our YouTubes, please make sure you've subscribed to the other fella's YouTube. And thank you to Holly Horn. Thank you. Holly Horn is our moderator today. And everybody in the chat, share this out. And we're also watching on The Rockfin. Share that out as well. Put it on your social media. Retweeting, all of that stuff helps. If you're in LA this week, I will be at the Pacific Bitcoin Conference Thursday and Friday this week, October 5th and 6th. I'm just going there to check it out. I've got a media pass. A lot of cool people. Max Kaiser is going to be there. Stacey Herbert's going to be there. A lot of other, it's a pretty cool conference that's put on by swan.com. If you haven't already watched my interview with swan.com CEO Corey Klepston, really cool interview. And so it's his event. And so I'm sure we'll see him and maybe get some more interviews with people from there. I'll be there the next 2 days, and it's in Santa Monica. And then I'll be at the Adopting Bitcoin Conference in El Salvador in November, where we're doing a comedy show November 8th, the Bitcoin Hollywood Comedy Show. And you can save 21% using coupon code Elwood21. Hello. All right. Let's bring him on. Let's do this, you guys. Let's get everybody ready to go, dialed in. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for Government Secrets episode 137 with the two most censored comedians in the world, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Tax are bullshit.
You just jumping the gun. You just didn't even want to hear it about the tax today.
No, I don't. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your tax-aganda. I don't want to hear
you didn't want to hear my attack today.
Lee Camp.
Thank you for calling us the two most censored comedians in the world, but I do believe there are comedians around the world in jail. So I'll say in America.
All right. In America's fair. If there's comedians in jail, then that's not right.
But being American, we also exaggerate everything. So I will now go back to being most censored in the world.
Yeah, we just make ourselves number one no matter what it is, even if it's like people around the world always go, the World Series? It's just your American teams.
Yeah. Is that the World Series? Is it the Super Bowl? Is it super?
See, when we do the World Cup, actually the whole world plays in it. When you do the World Series, it's just two teams from some American cities.
Even Eurovision is more accurate than the World Series. The World Series, because we have Toronto.
Yeah, that's as world as it gets. And we're not even in all 50 states. Like, we're not even in Alaska or Hawaii. There's no pro teams in the Dakotas, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really
that sounds very cool. You're speaking or performing at a Bitcoin conference. I did hear tickets were going for $60, but now they're down to $28. So sorry, that's my roast line. That's my roast line for you.
Well, you know, Lee, buy the dip. That's what we say in the Bitcoin world. Yeah. So
wouldn't it be great if everybody there had like dip in their lip? They were all chewing dip, and like as like a symbol of solidarity.
Yeah, man. Well, everyone, I can't wait to go to this because I've never been to a full Bitcoin conference, and this is not a crypto conference. It is Bitcoin only. So it is all Bitcoin maximalists.
Ooh, I can see like Ethereum protesters out front. with their signs that are just QR codes. You have to look it up on the app to get it.
Oh, that would be hilarious if there's like Ethereum protesters. That would be so great. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting world, this Bitcoin maximalist world. And you know, in the process of putting together this documentary and raising money for it. It's really fascinating. The Bitcoin world is a fascinating world, and I'm excited to explore it.
No doubt. I mean, currency outside of governments is pretty threatening to certain folks.
Well, it's basically, it's a friend of mine said it. It makes it's a counterculture of money. It's a currency counterculture, and it's like, wow, that sums up what it is, and it's attracting the Bitcoin people specifically are like all different walks of life, all different ideologies and political beliefs, but they all agree. Like there's a lot of libertarians, there's a lot of just full on capitalists, there's a lot of lefty activists, and it's the one thing I wish lefty activists would realize is that we actually need money. If we had a lot of money, we could actually affect change rather than, and I think lefty activists, because we see how awful and how money is used for so many awful things, that we just have a natural aversion to it. Like, I don't want to be rich. And I think if we viewed money as just a tool and used it for good, then we could make some change. Like if you look at the GameStop thing, and there's a movie coming out about it. Look what those GameStop guys did. They crushed ruling elites out of billions of dollars. They made a bunch of money. It was one of the most revolutionary activist things I've seen, and nobody got arrested. Nobody was tear gassed. You know what I mean? Nobody got beat up by the cops.
No, but Wall Street Journal was not happy.
They were angry. That's not fair. I love when that happened. All the the finance journalists were like, "These kids can't game.
What are they doing? Yeah.
They can't game the system. Only the ruling elites can do that. They can't.
They should stop their game." Yeah.
We're the only ones who can be corrupt, not these regular people.
Yeah, and it was as if they were cheating. It was like, no, don't you get it? Everything you guys do is all corrupt casino cheating bullshit. That is the definition of the game, and these people just played it better than you for about 10 minutes.
Yes, it's literally like, hey, you cheated better than I did. It's literally what they were saying. Yeah. You cheated better than I did. It's like, yeah, we did. We out cheated you. So suck it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we should do your segment first because it's more timely and relevant.
Well, everything we do is relevant, but it is more timely. And yeah, I would like to do it first because I'm angry.
But are we that relevant though? I mean,
you mean humans, or you mean you and me?
I mean, just you and I. Like, no. Are we relevant?
I mean, I hope so, but I don't know.
But I can go as far as maybe the whole human race isn't very relevant. I could go that far.
I mean, we are like seconds. Yeah. Seconds away from the end, and the dinosaurs, they ruled the earth for 160 million years. And we've been here for like one, if you stretch it, and we can't, not even one. And we just, it's fucked. It's done. It's
not even a full million. We haven't even been here a full million years. And we're really about to just screw it all up. Literally just within the last 60 years is when we decided to really just ramp it up.
Yeah, just ramp it up and plow it all, pave the earth. We're going to pave the earth tomorrow and just see how it goes. That's basically what we decided. We live closer to the T-Rex than the T-Rex ever lived to the Stegosaurus. That's how long dinosaurs were on the planet. And we've almost fucked it up in like a millisecond of this planet's existence.
I know. 160 million years they ruled the earth. And we literally can't even get a million straight. And just the minute we got a little bit of power, we started really screwing it up just within the last.
And yeah, and if you really want to look at like when it really fucking got fucked, it's industrial capitalism, which max has been around 500 years really less, but let's stretch it and say 500. So basically, in the blink of the eye of existence, of life on this earth, of the existence of the planet, the blink of an eye, it has just eaten and shat out everything. The blink of a fucking eye, it has just pooped out everything.
Folks, speaking of blink of an eye, go to our patreon.com/government secrets and support what we're doing, because we all might be dead soon. So you want to get your government secrets mug before it all goes up in smoke.
Why didn't you title this episode, "In the Blink of an Eye, We've Eaten and Shat Out Everything"?
Because I'm actually having those t-shirts made as we speak.
Oh, okay. Good.
That I'm going to hand out to kids in school and go, there's no hope, kids, as they're going to school. Their parents are like, learn and be smart and you're the future. I'm going to be like, no, you're not. And have them these shirts.
There is no future. Have fun. Yeah. Have fun in there.
Have fun in there, kids. So let's talk about how awesome the New York Times is.
This is amazing. It truly is. And for those of you, I know a fraction of our viewers and listeners watch this and also watch my live streams. And if that's true, then I will likely be covering this tomorrow as well. But it's so important, I don't want to leave it out. So sorry, you'll just have to deal with that. You'll have to find your fast forward button. But okay, so this begins back a month ago. And I don't, we don't normally do things this recent or this topical, but this is just so fucking ridiculous. And of course, government secrets, the stuff our government doesn't want you to know about, or the bullshit it does, is happening all the time. We just mainly focus on some of the biggest stuff, usually from years ago, but this is the last month. So the New York Times puts out yet another. I mean, they've had many Russiagate, conspiracy, unhinged bullshit articles. This is not Russiagate. This is switching to China stuff, right? Where we need to find the cabals of China influence in the United States. And I'm going to put this up on the screen. This was a month ago. The New York Times put this out. This global web of Chinese propaganda leads to a U.S. tech mogul.
Oh.
And this cover image here is of this tech mogul named Roy Singham and his wife, who is Jody Evans, the co-founder of Code Pink. Now, most people know Code Pink. Code Pink is a lovely, wonderful anti-war group that has not a violent bone in their bodies. They, in fact, just today, and I was there with them at the beginning of it, but I had to catch a bus, so I was not there when they went into Bernie Sanders' office, but I was there with them today at the Hart Senate office building, where they are calling for an end to war in Ukraine, and they went into Bernie Sanders' office with posters to tell him to call for an end to the war, and he had 10 of them arrested. So that's
wow.
That's Bernie for you.
But that's our boy Bernie. And that's all you had to say was, oh, she works for an anti-war. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's why they're going to start smearing her and now it's going to be what? Medea Benjamin has ties to China or the Kremlin or whatever nonsense they're going to spew.
Yeah. So, but this article is not just about Code Pink, because Roy Singham is a tech billionaire. He made his money in unrelated software or whatever, made about $1 billion. And he then decided, now this is not common for a billionaire. Roy Singham decided, you know what? I'm going to give that money to left-wing causes, because he is a avowed and clear socialist. He believes that the capitalist system is not very good and that U.S. empire is not very good, and he wants to support leftist causes. Now, is that illegal? Absolutely not. Nothing about that is illegal. And in fact, these right-wing billionaires, they do the equivalent on the right wing of shit. They do it all the time. The Koch brothers fund fucking everything. The Sacklers fund things, all these right wingers, but of course also billionaire Democrats like Soros fund all kinds of shit. Bill Gates funds all kinds of shit. So none of that is analyzed by your mainstream media, by these massive outlets that get far more views than independent media. None of that is analyzed or called or criticized. Bill Gates is not considered a villain for all the things he funds, or Soros or the Koch brothers or any of them. That's all fine. But when it's a leftist who wants to fund leftist projects, that is truly scary to the mainstream, including the New York Times, including our government. And so they did this full article.
It's also, let's also put, I want to put this in there. It's also scary that a billionaire who made his money in a capitalist system, you can't be a billionaire in a socialist system. You can be a millionaire, but you can't be a billionaire. So he made his money in a capitalist system and then decided to give it away. That's also even more scary. It's a bunch of scariness to them. Oh, he's going to give these lefty groups actually might have some power. As we talked about at the top of this show, lefties had real money. They could affect change. They know this. They know the power of capital, which is why the Koch brothers and Soros and all these evil assholes fund really awful stuff, right? Yeah. So they also don't want other billionaires going, oh, I will give my money away to help causes.
Yeah, it's very rare that that this happens, and there are a few tiny examples. Ben Cohen's another one, but for someone to get immensely rich and then decide to give it away to those who want to bring down this fucking horrific system or this horrific empire is rather rare. So the New York Times, goes after Roy Singham. Now, of course, they are very upset that Roy Singham does work with some people in China. Guess what? So does Starbucks. So does McDonald's. There are all kinds of people and corporations that work with China. It is the largest or second largest economy in the world. It works with the United States through all of the largest corporations. I was over there for 4 days. You see a lot of fucking Teslas on the road, folks. All right. There are tons of connections with China. Roy Singham also has connections in China. He works and lives part-time in Shanghai. He works and lives part-time in the United States. I assume he also, considering the amount of money he has, probably has a house in India as well. But he's around, and they use this fact that he partially lives in Shanghai as proof that he is under the thumb of the Chinese government, and he is funding these organizations and making them say what the Chinese government wants them to say. It's all bullshit. It really reads as an unhinged Rachel Maddow-esque conspiracy theory. And so
I've been to China twice to do shows. Does that mean am I a Chinese sympathizer?
I mean, I would say, yeah, you're a China bot.
I have friends in China. Uh-oh.
You went over there and they immediately installed a chip in your brain that makes you say anything they want.
A woman who was living in China. Does that mean she probably put the chip in my brain when we were dating?
In your brain and in other places, yeah. Absolutely.
Couldn't resist the dick joke. Like there was a dick joke sitting there. You just had
listen. Isn't that what this show's about?
Government dick jokes. This is
when I came to you with the idea, I was like, let's do this show. It'll be government secrets with dick jokes. Absolutely. Missiles and dicks. It's just missiles and dicks. And
that's what
they look.
Somebody please make some artwork of government secrets, just missiles and dicks, and just make that and send it to us. Somebody please do that on the internet. Please, internet, don't let us down. Oh
my God. So yes. So they do this article. Now here's the thing. And the article doesn't just go after Code Pink. It goes after Vijay Prashad, who's a well-known Indian American intellectual writer, philosopher, all these things. He's been interviewed on Democracy Now! About 100 times. He runs the Tricontinental Institute. This is also connected to the Left Forum, which is a big thing in New York City. So They tie all these threads together saying China is doing all of it. China tells these people what to say, basically because these organizations don't parrot the corporate bullshit neoliberal empire talking points. If you don't do that, you must be under the thumb of China, right? So they do this article, all these red threads, putting them all together. And one of the organizations that they go after in this article is an Indian outlet called NewsClick. And NewsClick is not that huge, but I guess it's big enough that it's, it's popular in India. And basically, NewsClick covers stories that you and I would want to hear about, like the farmers' revolt in India and things like that. So NewsClick has been a thorn in the side of the quasi-fascist Modi government in India for a while now. And they couldn't really find anything to shut them down or things like that because there's nothing there to find. It is perfectly legal what they do. They have a news outlet. They report the news. They are allowed to have, in India, you're allowed to have something like 20% of your funding come from outside the country. And they only have 9% of their funding comes from outside India. I don't know how much of that percentage is Roy Singham, but some of it. And yet New York Times says, oh, these are a China propaganda outlet funded by this guy who works sometimes in China. Jeez. And so they do this, and here's the end result as of 2 days ago. And like I said, I was just on a show and spent time with the two co-founders of Code Pink, Jody Evans and Medea Benjamin, and that's how I even found out about this story, because it's not like it's getting tons of coverage. 50 detained in India, 100 homes raided in a sweeping crackdown on press freedom in India. It involved over 500 police in New Delhi. And who knows how many man hours they put into whatever research and planning and everything for this raid. And this is to go after journalists that the New York Times has falsely accused of being Chinese puppets or propagandists. Wow. So basically, the New York Times is doing the work of the fascist government in India, helping to get journalists arrested.
God, like didn't the New York Times smear you?
Yeah, a few years ago, they had me on the cover of the arts section where they did it was a combination of like literally fact-free sentences, like no truth there whatsoever, and half-truths where they would present one side of something that was completely misconstrued in order to make it seem like I was doing Russian propaganda. And I did a response, and I actually got multiple portions of the article retracted, which I'm told by people who have worked at the New York Times that is incredibly rare that the New York Times does any retractions. They put a lot of thought into doing a retraction, and my article had multiple retractions. And that's how much work they put into attacking a comedian. Like the amount of effort.
Wow.
And the article for the New York Times that I just showed a minute ago against Roy Singham and Code Pink and everything, apparently that's been going on for months, the effort to investigate that, and has involved minimum 8 journalists. I think it's closer to a dozen journalists working for months to put together this unhinged conspiracy theory against these people. But anyway, so now we're seeing the results, which is this just terrible attack on. Sorry to fuck up the images there. This terrible attack. It says homes of over 100 journalists, contractors, and former employees associated with progressive news outlets NewsClick and People's Dispatch, as well as Tricontinental Research Services, were raided by Indian authorities on October 3rd. According to local reports, over 50 individuals were taken to the police station for additional questioning. The average interrogation lasted 8 hours, but NewsClick editor-in-chief, I'm going to mispronounce this, Prabir Perkayasha and Administrator Amit Chakraborty have been arrested on anti-terror laws, and they're still in prison right now. And who knows how long they'll be in prison. I mean, this article goes on and on about what's been done against them, but it's completely baseless accusations. And then there's another article by Vijay Prashad that came out yesterday. He says, this is in Counterpunch. He says, my friends Prabir and Amit are in jail in India for their work in the media. But again, this is all thanks to the New York Times. They held them for interrogation for the entire day. Average lasted 8 hours per person. Asked them if they had covered the farmers' revolt of 2020, the anti-Muslim violence in East Delhi in 2020, and the disastrous government response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as Vijay Prashad points out, not covering those stories would have been a dereliction of duty for a journalist and a researcher. So, they're interrogating them like it's a gotcha. Like, did you cover these things? But of course, this is fucking what a good journalist should be covering. I mean, the farmers' revolt, it
is beyond comprehension that the New York Times would participate in the arresting and jailing of journalists. It is just like, I can't even get my head around it. It's one thing they want to push pro-war or this and that, but to be like, yeah, go lock these guys up. They're like, it's a joke. Our whole system is a joke.
And if the New York Times wanted to, they could claim that, oh my God, we never thought this would happen. This is terrible. And put a fucking front page article about the horror show that has happened in India. And these people, they might be under the thumb of China, but they're journalists and they shouldn't be arrested. They're not doing fucking any of that. You're not going to hear a peep from the New York Times, which shows yet again, as with Julian Assange, that they're fine with the persecution of journalists if it facilitates the U.S. empire. These journalists, even though they're in India, are harmful to the U.S. empire.
Right. As long as it facilitates the U.S. empire. If it's it's unreal. If these people were helping the U.S. empire and they were being arrested, well, then the New York Times would be like, oh, we stand for journalistic integrity. It's like when Khashoggi got killed and everyone was like, well, this is awful, which it was, but it was like, okay, so they can chop up Khashoggi, and all you did was like wag your finger at Saudi Arabia. You didn't do anything about it. The U.S. government did nothing about it. And then it's like, oh, by the way, what about Julian Assange? And they of course have nothing to say about that. They just cherry pick their outrage when it, fits their narrative.
Yeah, and the New York Times finally, along with a bunch of other outlets, put out something saying Julian Assange should be freed, a statement, but it's almost worse. It's so much too little too late. It's almost worse than doing nothing, because they're admitting that they know and understand that Julian Assange is a journalist or a publisher being persecuted and should be freed, and yet still waited fucking 10 years to put out that statement, to put out their weak little statement. And it's like, wait, you knew this. You're claiming you understand this, and yet still waited 10 years. Like, fucking amazing.
God, it's unreal.
But so the point we're at right now is that we don't know when these two journalists will get out. We don't know whether other NewsClick people will be arrested soon. And this is not just India. These are the so-called tentacles that the New York Times unraveled, to mix my metaphors. There's several in New York. It connects to Code Pink. There's the Left Forum. There's Vijay Prashad. And, who knows who will be the next to be arrested, while the New York Times basically cheers it all on. I mean, by putting this report out and then sitting at the sidelines and watching fascist governments attack these people, you're basically cheering on fascism. I mean, this is the horror show that is the New York Times. And yet it's viewed as the liberal news organization of America.
Well, this is the joke of American politics, is and we talked about this like last week going into the second ridiculous Republican debate when they're like, oh, Joe Biden and his socialist extremist buddies. I'm just like, oh God, these are pro-war capitalists. And that's the thing too, is then, part of this deliberate red versus blue propaganda is that the New York Times is a bunch of liberal hippies over there. And if people really knew, if liberals really knew what the New York Times was doing, how the New York, just this case alone, not to mention Julian Assange, if they really knew, they would be like, no way. The New York Times is not liberal. It is part of the corporate machine. But the propaganda machine is very effective. I mean, I have a lot of very good friends in LA and around the country, college educated liberals, smart, well-read people that they still think in those terms of like, Bernie Sanders is he's a little out there for me. And it's like, he's a centrist in Western Europe. And
I know.
They think Fox is so awful, but then they're completely unaware of what the New York Times just did and is doing. And when you tell them about it, they kind of go, oh, well, nothing's perfect.
Yeah. And it occurred to me, I hadn't even mentioned this part, that after the New York Times article came out, it led to U.S. government movement on going after some of these people. Now, it's yet to be seen whether anyone will be investigated or arrested. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes? But here was, within days of the New York Times article, Marco Rubio has sent a request, and this is from his own website, basically sent a request to the U.S. government to investigate everything the New York Times was talking about. According to the New York Times, Roy Singham, a leftist U.S. citizen who lives in Shanghai, has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Senator Marco Rubio sent a letter to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland to assure that the U.S. Department of Justice investigates Singham and other left-wing organizations under FARA, which is the Foreign Agency Act, which was meant for lobbyists of foreign government, which is exactly not what this is. And so you have Marco Rubio, the day after the New York Times article comes out, telling the U.S. Attorney General to see if they can prosecute and imprison the people the New York Times printed about. So yet again, now it hasn't happened yet, but yet again, this is examples of the New York Times reporting trying to facilitate fascism. I mean, the arrest and persecution of journalists.
What is it? Democracy dies in the darkness?
Wait, no. Is that Washington Post? In the New York Times, all the shit that's fit to print or something?
Yeah. Right. We're liberal, except when it comes to journalists in India that are going against the American narrative.
And all the other things.
And all the other things. We're helping Modi's fascism.
Yes.
New York Times.
New York Times, supporting fascism since our inception.
Yeah, Modi. How is Modi is like, he's very much this Forrest Gump guy, because he's America backs him, lets him do all this awful shit, and yet he's part of BRICS, BRICS is clearly a threat.
He's playing both sides, and the U.S., because we're in such a fucked waning empire moment right now, is not willing to like cut him off because he's part of BRICS. So we're willing to let him play both sides, because right now we kind of need all the friends we can find. So yeah, Modi is like celebrated by both the U.S. and China, but there's tensions with both. I don't know them all, but
well, yeah, he's a right wing. He's a Hindu nationalist. He's nuts.
Yeah, but we like that part.
that's
We're fine with that.
I like a guy that's got a couple of foibles. You know what I mean? It just makes him colorful.
Couple of foibles, yeah. That's what fascism is. Well, he had some foibles in his youth, you know? He was a fascist in his youth, but
I'm just glad I got to use foibles on this show.
Foibles and detritus are two of my favorite things.
They're the best. The fact that we've gotten those two words woven into the show, a show that ostensibly is about missiles and dicks. I really.
Missiles and dicks, foibles and detritus. Welcome to Government Secrets.
The spectrum of just silly dick jokes and $10 words. We can really, really.
Yes, that's what people come here for.
All right, let's do our next segment for Government Secrets. Segment number 2. Another atomic accident, Lee Camp. These are my favorite.
They should call you Atomic Accident Graham Elwood, although that might sound like you were letting rip in your pants or something.
No, it sounds like I just love well, first, before I talk about the actual incident,
Robert just put in the chat emojis of a missile and an eggplant. That should be our t-shirt. Missile and an eggplant and Government Secrets.
With like missile and eggplant, and then Lee and I's faces like right underneath it.
No. But one of us riding each one like the guy in Dr. Strangelove.
Yes.
Cowboy hat.
The end of Dr. Strangelove, which is the end of the earth, which is what the show is celebrating.
There you go.
Oh, please, someone in the chat make this. This is help me, Obi-Wan. We need you. You're our only hope kind of moment.
And please make Graham riding the eggplant.
And make the rocket that Lee's riding the USS Detritus.
Oh my God.
And I'm holding a bag of tacks.
Yeah, it says attack of the eggplants. Yeah.
Oh, missiles and dicks. Please make this. All right. So first of all, Lee, before I get into the specifics of the the SL1 meltdown, I just want to talk to you about just a general. I just looked up nuclear and radiation accidents and incidents, and I just wanted to give you some just really fun statistics.
You only found 2, right?
Sure. I'm going to give you here's a fun stat. Since 2014, right? There have been more than 100 serious nuclear accidents and incidents from the use of nuclear power. 57 accidents or severe incidents have occurred since Chernobyl disaster. And about 60% of all nuclear-related accidents, severe accidents, have occurred in guess which country?
Oh, Luxembourg.
No, it rhymes with flumided mates of Caperica.
Did you just have a seizure? What's the answer, Graham?
Lee Camp, the correct answer is 60% of all nuclear-related accidents have occurred in the good old United States of America.
It's kind of crazy, but considering the amount of nukes we have.
So literally this is going to be like, I have episodes on this from this page that I can talk about for the next 2 years. But let's talk about the SL-71, Lee, the stationary low power reactor number 1, known as SL-1, or the Argonne low power reactor, ALPR, was a United States Army experimental nuclear reactor in the Western United States at the National Reactor Testing Station in Idaho.
I'm not a fan of anything with the sentence experimental nuclear reactor. I'm out. I don't.
Lee, you're so uptight. You know why? Why can't you live on the edge a little bit? Like, let's experiment with this thing that can wipe out all life on planet Earth. Why are we?
Okay, let's have a little fun. I'll drop a little acid and we'll have some.
Yeah, it's like every time I say, let's drive to Vegas late at night, you're like, no. And I'm like, let's do experimental nuclear waste. You're like, no. Like, come on. Are we going to have fun? Are we going to? God.
Listen, you only live once. And I'm like, that's why I don't want to do this. I only live once.
Yeah, I want to make this we all only live once. Like the human race only lives once.
Human race only lives once, yeah.
So this happened about 40 miles west of Idaho Falls, now the Idaho National Laboratory. So let's go into what happened on January 3rd, 1961. First of all, a little backstory. From 1954 to 1955, the U.S. Army evaluated their need for nuclear reactor plants that would be operable in remote regions of the Arctic. Perfect. The reactors were to replace diesel generators and boilers that provided electricity and space heating for the Army's radar stations. The Army Reactors Branch wrote the guidelines for the project and hired the Argonne National Laboratory to design, build, and test a prototype reactor plant to be called the Argonne Low Power Reactor. Some of the more important criteria included all components able to be transported by air. Well, now we love that. Now we're getting... I love it when we transport dangerous stuff in a plane. Oh.
Yeah.
And so the prototype was constructed by the National Reactor Testing Station west of Idaho Falls from 1957 to 1958. It went critical on August 11, 1958, became operational October 24, and was formally dedicated December 2nd, 1958. The 3 megawatt thermal boiling water reactor used 93.2% highly enriched uranium fuel. It operated with natural circulation. Oh, that sounds like good. It's like organic, it's like free range uranium.
A lot of what we do is free range radioactive material.
It's farm to table uranium, Lee. That's basically what I'm saying to you.
Farm to table radioactivity. That's what it is. Yeah.
So the plant was turned over to the Army for training and operation experience in December 1958 after extensive testing. Combustion Engineering Incorporated, CEI, acting as the lead contractor beginning February 5th, 1959. CEI was responsible for the actual operation of the SL-1 reactor, for the routine training of military personnel, and for developmental research programs. Well, clearly that worked out. Trainees for the Army Reactor Training Program included members of the Army called cadre, who were the primary plant operators. Many maritime civilians also trained along with a few Air Force and Navy personnel. While plant operation was generally done by the cadre in two-man crews, development of the reactor was supervised directly by CEI staff. CEI decided to perform development work on the reactor as recent in the later half of 1960, in which the reactor was to be operated.
Whenever you hear any of this stuff, the NASA stuff, the nuclear reactors, all this shit, remember that 1960s, we barely had a TV in every house. Like, people were still impressed by the telephone in 1960s. Like, you just have to remind yourself how simple fucking like technology was. And they're like, yeah, we had these advanced nuclear reactors. We were having fun with it.
They had no business doing any of this. But listen to this good news. As the reactor core aged and boron neutron poison strips corroded and flaked off, CEI calculated that about 18% of the boron in the core had been lost. On November 11, 1960, CEI installed cadmium sheets, also a poison, to several T-slot positions to increase reactor shutdown margin. Oh God. So here's what happened then. That was leading up to it. So they built it. A bunch of scientists built it, maybe knew what they were doing, turned it over to a contractor and military people that clearly did not know what they were doing. It started leaking and they basically put tape on it. just put duct tape.
Oh my God.
And this is what happened on January 3rd, 1961. SL1 was being prepared for restart after a shutdown of 11 days over the holidays. Maintenance procedures required that Rod 9 be manually withdrawn a few inches to reconnect it to its drive mechanism. At 9:01 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, the rod was suddenly withdrawn too far.
Oh my God. For those who know The Simpsons, in Rod We Trust.
In Rod We Trust.
There was an episode where Homer goes to space and somehow a rod saves his life.
Oh.
So I think we're in an episode of The Simpsons here.
We are. Only this wasn't a cartoon in a fictional town. This actually happened just outside in a small town in Idaho.
Whoa. Simpsons isn't real?
No, it's not. I thought for years it was a documentary, but I just found out. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, you just blew it for me. You just blew up my childhood.
So when they withdraw this rod too far, it caused the SL1 to go prompt critical instantly. In 4 milliseconds, the heat generated by the resulting enormous power excursion caused fuel inside the core to melt and to explosively vaporize. The expanding fuel produced an extreme pressure wave that blasted water upward, striking the top of the nuclear vessel with peak pressure of 10,000 pounds per square inch. The slug of water was propelled at 160 feet per second with an average...
This sounds, I'm going to say, like a lot of force.
That's a correct assertion, Lee Camp. Yes, this was a lot of force.
I'm just going to say that I also apply my rod at this force.
Well, this is what happens when you pull your rod out too fast.
You were waiting for the dick jokes. I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want to let down our eggplant fans.
This is why you should never just thrust your rod in and pull it out quickly, because then it will shoot hot liquid at an alarming rate.
Hot radioactive liquid. Everyone should be wearing a hazmat suit when this happens.
Causing a basically pearl necklace in Idaho of radioactive material. No, that's not what it said. It was shooting out hot liquid at 160 feet per second and pressure of about 500 pounds per square inch. That's what she said. The extreme water hammer propelled the entire reactor vessel upward at 27 feet per second, while the shield plugs were ejected at 85 feet per second. With 6 holes on top of the reactor vessel, high pressure water and steam sprayed the entire room with radioactive debris, or as you like to call it, detritus, from the damaged core.
I love how Graham acts like I'm the only one who knows this word. And Lee Camp's crazy word.
Lee, I have never heard this word. And my father was a college professor. When I was a kid, he'd have his academic scholarly buddies throw on all these big words. I've never heard this word till you said it on this show like a year ago.
Graham, I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to have to ask the commenters who's ever heard of the word detritus.
Yes. Who's heard this word prior to watching this show? I want to know. Anyway, as we wait for the results of Lee Camp's word.
Who's heard that and who's heard of tax? Those two things.
Who knows how to crack the code on the difficult technology of tax?
And keeping a curtain up. Who knows how to crack the mystery of the universe that is curtains? Yes.
Who has the alien advanced weaponry? Never heard of it. Listen to the chat. No one, not me, never heard of it.
RVA Clavic says I use it occasionally.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Mr. Meepsor says I know words.
There. That's a sterling endorsement for you, Lee. I know words. Mr. I know words. All right, let me finish this. So, again, there was radioactive detritus all over the room. A later investigation concluded that the 26,000-pound vessel had jumped 9 feet 1 inch, parts of it striking the ceiling of the reactor building before settling back into its original location and depositing insulation and gravel on the operating floor. The spray of the water steam knocked 2 operators onto the floor, killing one and severely injuring another. The number 7 shield plug from the top of the vector vessel impaled the third man through his groin and exited his shoulder, pinning him to the ceiling. It went through his crank into his shoulder and pinned him to the ceiling.
I don't want to be doing this. I don't like this.
Are you just going to get up and walk out?
This is the one. I knew the episode would come. I just walk away.
I just picture you doing it, and I picture you're actually bald, and you just take off it's a wig you're wearing. You just take off your wig and put it down.
I take off the fake mustache and I walk out.
And you have like the prosthetic nose and everything.
And no one ever hears from me again.
His lead cap was a fake name. There's no social security number. Like everything was fake. You've just been doing this. That would be so fan. Lee, that would be the greatest closing to any show that's ever been done by anybody.
That would be the best ending to a career since Steve Martin performed to a stadium of people and then never did it again.
Never did it again. The single biggest, most popular comedian ever, and just walked. Oh God, that would be great if you did that. Yeah, so the victims were Army Specialist Richard Leroy McKinley, age 27, John Burns, age 22, and Naval CB Construction Electrician First Class, Richard Legg. It was later established by author Todd Tugger that Barnes, the reactor operator, had lifted the rod and caused the excursion. Legg was standing on top of the reactor vessel and was impaled and pinned to the ceiling. Oh, God. And McKinley stood nearby. Only McKinley was found alive, unconscious and in deep shock by rescuers. This was consistent with the analysts of the SL1 Board of Investigation, and with the results of the autopsies was suggested that Byrne and Legg died instantly, while McKinley showed signs of diffuse bleeding.
Stop. The guy who had a rod through his groin/upper thigh was named Legg. And the other guy was named Byrne.
Yeah.
And they all were hit with radioactive burns. Byrne and Legg were burned and pinned to the ceiling through their leg. This is fake. Graham, you made this up.
I didn't even think about that when I was reading this. I didn't even look at the name. I didn't even consider it. I was like just reading the information. I was like, oh, wow, 500 pounds an hour or whatever the pressure was or whatever.
Oh, God. I give up.
Take the wig off. Take the mustache off.
And to go back to Simpsons, who owns the nuclear power plant? Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns. So that is the fun, exciting story of SL1. Do.
Jesus Christ.
You feel good about yourself, Lee?
I think after that accident, they walked up to the guy pinned to the ceiling. They were like, your chances of having a kid now are lower than they were before.
Well, basically, they said, you're never going to be able to have sex again. And he went, just kill me. Shoot me in the head. I'm out.
He died of a gunshot wound, yeah.
So, yep, that's our fair government doing great work. Just letting atomic rods shoot all over the place. So.
Well, at least we didn't let this slow us down. That's what I like. It's our can-do spirit. We don't let one man pinned to the ceiling through his groin
Stop us.
get in the way of our advancement as a country in the realm of nuclear
When they
experimentation.
came in and somebody went, look, there's a guy pinned to the ceiling. We should shut this down. And there's some general went, are you an American? Are you American or an Americant? Like, what is it, son? You know?
Son, if I shut down every nuclear experiment for a man pinned to the roof through his groin, we would never get anything done.
Nothing would have happened, son. Look, you can't make nuclear energy without breaking a few dudes' dicks into a ceiling. You know what I'm saying?
Son, if Isaac Newton stopped investigating science because he was pinned to the ceiling through his nuts, we wouldn't be here right now.
Oh, God. Like,
son, if Albert Einstein had stopped his equations the moment his nuts were blown off, you would be speaking German right now.
if Alexander Graham Bell just gave up because the phone blew up and put his nuts into the goddamn ceiling fan, you'd be sitting there talking on a coffee can full of string, son. We can't give up. Now pull that sumbitch down from the ceiling and put his nuts into the. Make a plaque with his name on it.
Pull him down and give him a plaque. Give him. We actually have the plaques ready to go. Give him a plaque. You know what? I knew this trophy we had made of the guy with the bar through his nuts was going to come in handy. Give him that trophy. Give him that trophy.
I just had a feeling that somehow we're going to need this trophy with the guy with the rod through his crank.
I knew the moment was going to come. I put it in a cabinet that said break glass in case of emergency. Had this trophy waiting for 7 years. 7 years.
What if they just decided, in honor of this kid, you know what, leave him up on the roof and just bronze him. So there's just this guy like stuck on the roof.
Just bronze him. Listen, just get out the bronzer. Just... You know what? If we don't have that, just spray tan him. Spray tan that guy. Leave him up there.
Spray tan him and someone climb up there and spackle that sumbitch and keep him up there just as a reminder. And then every time a scientist comes in that room, they just see this like crazy thing like hanging from the ceiling.
And they're like, that's to remind us to wash our hands.
Never pull a rod out fast or you're going to end up on that roof like that son of a bitch. Oh, Jesus Christ. This country is like Arkham Asylum, the fictional madhouse where they put the Joker and the Riddler and all these criminally insane people in the Batman series, is less nuts than what actually has been done by this country. Like, we impaled a guy to a roof and went, yeah, keep going. We got to keep.
Listen, you got to keep going.
Like, the Joker's crazy plans, like, name me one like fictional supervillain's evil plan that's like way worse than the shit the United States has actually done. Like,
no, I don't think you could. I don't think not much could compete with shooting a guy through the ceiling by his balls. Not much.
So we've established a lot on this episode as we wrap up here. One, the show is basically missiles and dicks. Two, you wearing a wig and a fake mustache.
And fake eyebrows, but I didn't want to talk about that.
I'm out of here. I'm done.
Take off the eyebrows.
And you have like one glass eye. You just take it out and you just put an eye patch over it.
I spit out the teeth. I spit out both eyes and I walk away.
Wig off. Just
I'm just a skull.
And I swear to God, that was the last time I saw Lee, if that's even his real name. I don't know what he just fucking walked out in the middle of an episode. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I thought that was his real hair. I hung out with this guy. I mean, I didn't have
That was his real hair. That's the part that really struck you. After I pulled my eyes out, you were like, I thought it was his real
I
hair.
thought it was real hair.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the guy up close. We've hung out. I was convinced that was his real hair.
And you're like, but I also see why, you hear about a man stuck to the ceiling through his balls, and look, we all want to call it quits at that point.
I heard the story. I wished I had fake hair that I could take off and walk away from. Just put a hair piece on top of this mic and walk off.
You know what's funny? We made the missiles and dicks joke before we got to the part of the story where a projectile went through a guy's dick.
I know. It's like we knew.
Yeah, it was foreshadowing. Foreshadowing.
It's the universe conspired to make this episode
one of our best.
One of our best ever. Missiles and dicks.
Missiles and dicks.
And a guy impaled to a roof through his crank. Jesus. All right. Well, I think that's our episode. That was pretty fantastic.
It was pretty great. So we doing Patreon?
Yes. Please, folks, go to patreon.com/government secrets immediately following this show. And if you join today, you get unlocked. There's 30 some bonus.
I think we're over 40.
That's right. We're in the 40s now. 40 some bonus segments that all get unlocked the minute you sign up.
And if you sign up at certain levels, you can also get merch like mugs and shit. We don't have the eggplant missile mug yet, but we're working on it. Any moment now. And join us over there. My stuff's all at leecamp.net. I live stream 4 days a week at rumble.com/leecamp. And
Yes, folks. And you can go to grahamelwood.com, sign up for my newsletter. And I will be at the Adopting Bitcoin conference in El Salvador. It's November 7th through the 9th. And we're doing a comedy show the evening of November 8th. And you can save 21% if you use coupon code Elwood21. Just go to grahamelwood.com and there's a link to that. And I will be, haven't been doing as many like tour dates, but I'll be dropping more of those, really just trying to get this documentary done. So go to grahamelwood.com.
All right. See you over at Patreon.
This has been episode 137, Missiles and Dicks.
Later.
All right, everybody. We'll see you over there. Thank you, Holly Horn, everybody in the chat. We'll see you over at patreon.com/government secrets. So long.